everything is working and flowing right. And we shall see. What's up, everybody? Hey, guys, just giving everybody a moment to get in and get settled. We're gonna have a good time. Good time tonight. Ooh, it double posted the title on Facebook. That is not good for reach. It's amazing. You make one mistake and Facebook goes, I'm not sharing this with nobody. It's so bad. What a terrible system. I don't like that word you put in your post, so nobody's gonna see it. But that is the world we live in, isn't it? I'm trying to find out if I'm live on YouTube, and it doesn't look like I am. Now, why is that? Hold on, guys. Welcome to everybody in the Facebook stream. You're gonna want to share this. It's really good. I promise you. I got some stuff. It says 4 people are watching me on YouTube, but yet I don't see it on YouTube. And I want to be in the chats. Oh, there it is. Well, that's in a different location, but it is working. Let's see. Why isn't it coming up in the YouTube studio though? Like it's supposed to. Oh well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. Okay. I can see you in the chats, guys, on YouTube now. Pop out that chat. Bring it closer to my camera so that when I look at the chat, it looks like I'm looking at the camera, but I'm actually looking at you. And let's get that Facebook going. All right, what's up, everybody? I'm gonna do some. It's gonna be fun. It's been so long since I've done a live stream, and I've been wanting to do this for a while. But for those of you guys that don't know, I moved from Phoenix up to Idaho. We got a house up here, and we have begun to start building a competitive platform called Lore, L-O-O-R. And you can check that out at lore.tv if you don't know. If you don't know, I don't know how you don't know. It's pretty much the only thing I've been talking about on Facebook lately. So you should know. But if you don't, you go to lore.tv and you can check out sort of a little snippet, a little preview of what we've been working on there. So my mind has been completely in the Christian media space for the past few months. And we moved up here, and this room was actually just all wood panel, and it looked terrible, and the audio sounded awful. And you can see we painted in here and got sound panels, and it's just a much more lovely environment to work in and to be a part of and stuff. And it's been really great. I really like this office space now. So I'm ready to come back and do the live streams. And today we're going to be talking about, this is really important. While we were at the Founders Conference in Florida, which was fantastic, by the way, it was so good. Thanks to Jared and Tom for allowing us to put up a booth that says Christian movies shouldn't suck. Really, really great, really bold of them. Really appreciate them letting us be there, and Laura being there and being a part of it. And I'm really excited about just everything that Founders is doing. It's fantastic and exciting. And I think it was probably Saturday afternoon, we had some time just to chill. And I remembered that I signed up for an NRB event, a live event. We were going to have a booth at the NRB conference, but I don't think they're doing the NRB conference because, well, of COVID. So that didn't happen. Thankfully, I think that would not have been good. So we went to the Founders Conference, but one of the talks, the panels that I was looking forward to going to at the NRB conference was called "The Future of Christian Film and TV Distribution," and I was really interested to kind of see this thing. And I got a note on my phone and an email that because I missed the stream, there it was uploaded to YouTube and it was made public to YouTube on YouTube, which is really great. I'm glad they did that. I thought I was going to miss it, and so I went to watch it, and it drove me absolutely bonkers. And we're going to talk about it tonight. We're going to talk about some of the stuff in this, and I want you, when you watch this, I want you to just be thinking in terms of. I want you to be thinking in terms of why do Christian movies suck? Why are they so bad? And why is lore such a radical idea and concept? And I'm gonna tell you right now, the reason lore, I think we know we can succeed, we know we can win, is because we know our enemy better, and also because we know that making Christian films is not about worldviews. It is about worldviews. It's not about neutrality. There's not a neutral business in all the world, or anything. There's nothing that's neutral, and that especially applies to businesses. So, so we're gonna go through this, and this made me really angry. But before we start, I want to put some parentheses here. And the parentheses here is we're going to be looking at a man by the name of Greg Gudorf. And just for transparency's sake, I know Greg personally. I would consider Greg a friend. I worked with him when I worked with PureFlix around in 2018. So I've known him. I still know him, and he's always been there to give me advice when I need it, and he is a great guy. But I completely disagree with what we're about to watch, and it has nothing to do with personally with Greg. He's super smart, super intelligent. I just want to put that out there. He's no longer the CEO of PureFlix, but he was when I worked there. And actually, I think he's actually working to do Answers TV with Answers in Genesis, or at least he consulted on Answers in Genesis' streaming service, which, by the way, I didn't know existed until he mentioned it in this talk. Yeah, that's a thing. Answers in Genesis has a streaming service, and I looked at it, and I kind of want to get it. So, anyways, let let's just go ahead and start this out, shall we? Let me make sure that my Stream Deck is working, because I haven't used that in months. It did work. It switched. The camera angle switched. Let me create an output for this so I can see what you guys are seeing around the same time. There we go. Well, let's move it closer to right there. That way it looks like I'm looking in the camera when I'm looking at that. So that'll be good. All right. So this is Phil Cook. Phil Cook does a lot of, I guess you could say, social media and digital marketing consulting for a lot of, I guess the best way to put it is life. I wanted to say Big Eva, but I don't know if I necessarily say it's Big Eva, but definitely for maybe the Lifeway evangelicals is probably the best way to put what this guy does. And then there's a third guy that we might see, and his name is, I forgot his name. Let's see if it's in the description. Yes, Dan Ruppel. And Dan Ruppel, actually, he's a former CBS television executive. So that's interesting. But I don't know if we'll get to what he has to say. But anyway, I want you guys to pay attention to this, because this is very, very important. What we're about to see is, I think, very critical to sort of understanding worldviews and the fact that theology matters when we're dealing with these things. So this is from the NRB. I'll show it to you right up there. NRB. And you can watch it. You can watch the whole thing yourself. But this is about 19 minutes in, and they're talking about Christians getting into Hollywood and the difference between Christian media and Hollywood. I hate to say it, but they're absolutely dead wrong. I don't know what else to say. But anyway, here we go.
But I think also it means we have a real responsibility as Christian filmmakers or television producers. You know, Ralph Winter, a friend of ours, produced Wolverine, Planet of the Apes, Star Trek. He was just most recently in Tokyo producing an updated version of Miami Vice, only based in Tokyo Vice. Who would have thought? And but we've had conversations many times about the fact that, you know, as soon as Passion of the Christ got Hollywood's attention and they started looking at this faith-based market, the thing that would hurt us the most is if we try to produce really poor stuff. You know, if we take them something that's cheesy, overacted, maybe overly explicit, you know, sometimes Christian audiences will forgive maybe overacting or cheesy storyline or some things like that. But when it comes to that secular mainstream audience, they are brutal. And so I think it's just a responsibility for us as producers, as filmmakers, as creative people to, when we do have that project we think has the potential to cross over, it better be pretty amazing. It better really be able to stand up on its own, because that world is not going to, they're not going to be forgiving like very often Christian audiences could be. So I think that's our kind of our clarion call to make amazing stuff.
Okay. So I want you to take note of what he said there. He said that Christian media, the Christian media audience, the audience who watches Christian movies, Christian television, that sort of thing. I don't even know if you can really say Christian television is a thing. It doesn't really exist on a grand scale at all. But anyway, that audience is going to be very forgiving when it comes to this sort of stuff. If you can make a bad movie for Christians, and they'll be very forgiving, and they'll watch it anyway. They'll pay to watch it. They'll rent out the churches. The churches will rent out the theaters, or well, they used to be able to rent out the theaters, but they'll rent out the theaters so that you can watch a movie. And even if it's not good, it'll still do well because Christians are forgiving. That is really offensive. That is so offensive. That's saying, look, guys, we're Christian filmmakers, and we know that you guys can accept garbage. So we shouldn't try as hard unless we're going to Hollywood. Now, if we're going to try to hit that mainstream audience, then we really got to step it up. But if you're doing the Christian stuff, man, don't worry. Christians are forgiving. Like I heard him say that, and did he just say what I think he said? Did he really just say we can give the Christians the scraps? But we really got to fight. We really got to do well for the pagans. But the Christians will give them scraps. What in the world? What, like that? That should so offend you. That should so offend you. That's like we can give the Christians just a bowl of rice, and they'll say thanks to God before it. So we shouldn't try to give Christians 5-star meals. But the pagans expect that 5-star meal. So make the good stuff for the pagans because they expect it. The Christians, however, a bowl of rice is fine. They'll still say grace beforehand. I mean, this is a Christian does have an understanding of mercy, and a Christian does have an understanding of forgiveness, but that in no way implies that because of that we should do less. At a church here in Moscow, Idaho, there's this sort of I guess there was a document that was going around. I guess it was made by the elders, and it was talking about just essentially like how you should do business among Christians in a community, especially a small community. Where we have a big church. And so one of the things there was you shouldn't expect a discount because you're doing business with a Christian or someone who goes to your church. So don't go to them looking for a discount. In fact, you should be willing to pay more for a Christian service. And I completely agree with that. But this is not the principle that's being applied here. This is This is Christians can deal with lackluster content. Christians can their understanding when it comes to less than quality. They're used to it. We've suckered them into that with K-Love and Christian praise music, and we've suckered them into that with poor Christian films that are just for them, by the way. So just when you say that Christian films are, when you hear someone say that Christian films are supposed to be evangelistic, just know right here that they're not. Based from Phil Cook's mind, if they're not evangelistic, they're for the Christian audience, and they're terrible. And but that's okay because you guys are forgiving. So just keep that in mind. When you're watching these things. And so I mean, this is why I wanted to start Lore, is because I felt like Christian media was really terrible, and there really needed to be something that was new and different, and didn't sort of settle for this idea that Christians should get the bowls of rice, but they should be given the really high-end quality stuff that makes the world desire the films that Christians have. See, there's not a single film that you can point to that the world would look at and go, man, I wish we told stories like that. Now there's books, right? Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, Pilgrim's Progress. Those are historic classic books and literature written from a Christian worldview that really are sort of at the top when it comes to these sort of things. And so, but when it comes to movies, there's just this mentality of, well, just give the Christians the low budget stuff, give Christians the poorly acted stuff, they'll show mercy, they'll be forgiving. And then when we go to Hollywood, that's when we'll really try hard. The other thing I want to mention too is, like, he was talking about Passion of the Christ. And a lot of times, Passion of the Christ is looked on favorably in terms of, this is when Hollywood really understood Christian film. And I just want to say that they've always understood Christian film, and they always understood the Passion of the Christ. But people that worked on the Passion of the Christ got destroyed. They got destroyed by Hollywood. They were blacklisted. Mel Gibson was labeled an anti-Semite and all these other things, and it was just really terrible for everybody that had anything to do with that movie. Besides the fact that it made $600 million in the box office, and we'll get to this because this is coming up. Besides that fact, they tried to make sure that no Christian had the guts to be able to do that again. And, well, there really hasn't been a Christian that has tried to do that again, even with a $30 million film making $600 million, which is really, really incredible. Excuse me. So let's continue this real quick.
Would you agree?
I think that underscores.
So real quick, this is Greg Gudorf. He was the former CEO of PureFlix when I was there. Or I wasn't really with PureFlix, but still, he was the guy I worked with at PureFlix for what I was doing.
Is the exact point. Hollywood is a machine, and so the metrics and the money will over trump the message.
Stop. I don't know if we can get any more clearly wrong than that. For those of you guys that didn't catch what he said that Hollywood is a machine and the metrics and the money will trump the message. And that is just not true. Now, this talk was not given 3 years ago. This talk was given January 22nd, the day after Biden got elected, right? So this is posted on YouTube the day after Biden got elected, and it's saying, well, Hollywood doesn't care. Hollywood only cares about money. That's the one thing Hollywood looks at. They only care about the metrics and the money, and they don't care at all about the message. That is not true at all. and I have a case to build to prove it, but I don't think I really have to work that hard, because I know the people that are watching this right now can look at that thought and go, what are you talking about? Wow, if Hollywood doesn't care about the message, why is there a cancel culture at all? Why is there a cancel culture if Hollywood doesn't care about the message? So so I have documentation, I have the receipts, but let's I just want to continue playing to make sure I didn't miss anything in what he said, but we'll just continue this. They will make that bet. They absolutely 100% will make that bet, and they don't even care about the money, because look, Hollywood is a religious institution. Every institution is a religious institution. Again, there is no neutrality. Now, Greg works with Answers in Genesis. He works closely with Answers in Genesis. So I would like to say to Greg, hopefully he's watching this, next time you're at the Creation Museum or the Ark Encounter, I know it's at the Creation Museum bookstore. I don't know if it's at the Ark Encounter bookstore. Next time you're at the Creation Museum, check out the section they have there on presuppositional apologetics and grab Greg Bonson's book on presuppositional apologetics and read that, and then go back and consider this, what you just said. So consider this. He said that Hollywood doesn't care about the message. Now, can you think of any religion more focused on the message than that of critical race theory, cultural Marxism, and social justice theology, right? Like there is no more religious institution. That institution requires constant sacrificial atonement, constant perpetual atonement. You cannot be forgiven enough in Hollywood's ideal white privilege, social justice, critical race theory sort of mentality. You can't have it. So Sai said he couldn't hear the video when it plays. So let me turn the volume up, because I really want you guys to listen to this. So let me just go back, and then I'll turn the volume up some, just to make sure everybody hears this, and I'll turn it up on the on my desktop share too. Because I'm hoping that it's only Sai. So somebody said that clip did not play. Well, goodness. Hopefully this is as loud as I can crank it. Well, maybe I can crank it louder on my actual. Let's try this. This might work.
They're not gonna be forgiving like very often Christian audiences could be. So I think that's our clarion call to make amazing stuff. Would you agree?
I think that underscores the exact point. Hollywood is a machine, and so the metrics and the money will over trump the message alone. Whereas in the Christian side, many filmmakers think the message is the most important thing, and if I get the message really right, the money will come. Hollywood won't make that bet.
Hollywood will make that bet. Hollywood, let me just be very clear. Hollywood will not only make that bet, but they will throw all their money in the trash can. They will throw all their customers in the gutter to make that bet. Here's some proof on that right here. Live PD. So a Live PD was the absolute #1 show. It was the #1 show on all on all of television, cable television. It was the #1 show. It was trending every Friday night when it went live. It was one of the hottest properties in all of Hollywood. And yet, it was canceled at the altar of social justice because of the George Floyd riots, right? This is Live PD canceled by A&E following report that reality show filmed police custody death. So this is the outrage here. You have these people who, by the way, the people who are complaining about Live PD and showing what they showed about police, the people that are complaining about Live PD are not the ones that watch it. The ones that don't like Live PD because it glorifies police brutality or glorifies, the thin blue line and all this stuff. The ones that don't like Live PD and are fighting for it to be canceled and pulled off the air are not the ones that watch it. And if they do watch it, they're hate watching it, and it only adds to the viewership anyway. But anyway, their voices overpowered that of the market. The market said, we want to watch Live PD. We like Live PD. It's the number one trending show on Twitter. It's number one show on cable. It's probably $1 billion property. Not just Live PD, by the way. They had the courtroom show. They had pretty much everything that Dan Abrams was hosting, pretty much everything on A&E. All of A&E's entire network. Understand how influential this show was. All of A&E's entire network and programming was geared towards this market of the families of those who know police officers, and those who work in the court system and justice system, right? So you had the court shows, you had 60 Days In, which is about the correctional officers and the prison system. So you had all these shows that were a result of essentially from this Live PD. I mean, Dan Abrams was pretty much running this entire network, and they canceled it. They canceled the whole show because of the few social justice warriors that were mad and complaining and didn't watch the show anyway. So if that is not caring about the message more than the metrics and the money, I don't know what is. And this isn't the first time a show has been canceled. Roseanne Barr. Does anybody remember Roseanne? Roseanne had the number one show on television, and they canceled her for one thing she said, supposedly when she was, on Xanax or whatever. They canceled her. They kicked her off. She was gone. She had the number one show on TV, but it wasn't really about Roseanne as much as it is that there is a constant penance that needs to happen over and 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 over again with the social justice critical race theory. So it didn't matter how many people watched Roseanne. It didn't matter how many people watched Tim Allen on Fox. Well, I guess it was on ABC, and then it went to Fox. And then ABC bought Fox, and then I think now that show is over. So they got him. They got him in the end. They got him twice. But yeah, and then they're still trying to cancel Tim Allen, as if he's not a moneymaker, as if he doesn't have a following, as if he doesn't have a base. They're always trying to cancel Mike Rowe. Like, Mike Rowe is someone that's always trying to be canceled. His show just got pulled off of Facebook. Had average 3 to 6 million views per episode, and they go, yeah, we're just not going to renew it. Why is that? Why is that? I don't know, Facebook. I can guess. So the idea that Hollywood only cares about these metrics, and they only care about the money and not the message, is just not true. This is why we have cancel culture. This is why cancel culture exists and has so much power, because that they know these few LGBTQ people are loud enough that they can make enough of a stink in the Twitter bubble that forces all these companies to do whatever the mob requires them to do. Whatever, it doesn't matter how small that mob is. If they show up on Twitter with their angry pitchforks and torches, these companies are just going to bend to the will, no matter how much money they're bringing in. The one time it didn't work was with Chick-fil-A, and actually it probably did work with Chick-fil-A now that I think about it, because Chick-fil-A went and hired one of Obama's people to oversee their charitable givings. I believe that's what I heard. So even Chick-fil-A, who had the complete support of Christians, and you had tons of Christians just lying out on the streets for Chick-fil-A, even they caved to some degree when it came to the mob mentality. Even the CEO came out and issued a sort of half-hearted apology to the homosexual community. So the idea that Hollywood is not a religious institution and they only care about money and marketing is outrageous. It's outrageous. And then so the fact and here's the thing. It doesn't even work. Pushing these ideals on people it doesn't even work. And here's a good example of that. So this is a little something from, this is actually from the Sci-Fi Channel, and it says GLAAD spotlight Batwoman as the only broadcast show with an LGBTQ lead for new season. So you have here a lesbian who actually replaced the host of she replaced the host of the first season, and so the new season they have a new Batwoman, and everything I've heard about this show is that it's absolutely terrible and it's just social justice indoctrination, and it doesn't even work. The ratings for the show are abysmal. I believe I looked at the ratings before I started this live stream, and here it says right here, first time in 4 years it's going from, let's see, GLAAD's news, GLAAD's news knew where we are on TV report notes a number of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer characters has in fact decreased for the first time in 4 years from 10% to 9%. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Well, that is not the ratings for this. The ratings for this was 0.700. So that means that the people that watch this show is about 700,000 people. I watch YouTube videos every day that have more than 700,000 viewers. So it's not even a big hit. It's not successful. This is just preaching. And nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. Did you guys watch? Here's something. You talk about it. They only care about the metrics. They only care if it's good. Did you guys watch This Is Us this year? So the last season, spoiler alert, last season character comes in, says, I'm pregnant with twins. The show ends. That's the end of that season. This year, the show comes back on. It goes right back into that room where they're having that conversation about her being pregnant. And they say, the very next words out of the guy's mouth is, well, what about COVID? Do you think you'll be okay with COVID? And then everybody suddenly puts on masks everywhere they go, and COVID has made this amazing plot point. And it's not amazing. That was the wrong word. I meant to say like awesome in the sense of like terrifying. Like it's the all-encompassing plot point of This Is Us. Is COVID, and it literally comes in within 30 seconds of those two episodes. Somehow there's this whole COVID thing, this whole COVID narrative, and it just comes out of nowhere. That's insanity, and everything about it is terrible. Like when the character comes and he's visiting this guy's house. I'm really trying to say this in a way that won't spoil it for people. But this character comes and he visits this guy's house, and the guy says, "Thank you for quarantining for 14 days before you get here. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me." It's like, are you kidding me? Just write the show. You don't have to put this message in the show, especially if the message absolutely ruins it. It ruins it. Like, you cannot watch This Is Us anymore without seeing this sort of social justice-y sort of thing. The abortion narrative, the Black Lives Matter narrative. They've turned every character into the most unlikable character when they were the most likable characters in all of television. That first pilot for This Is Us, how it embraced the doctrine of adoption, was fantastic and beautiful and wonderful. And then it just completely loses track. And it lost track in such a way, I'll tell you this, it lost track in such a way that even the writers don't even care about it anymore. And you can tell. You can tell when writers are told from a network, hey, you guys need to make sure that everything you do in this show is like COVID compliant. Absolutely critical, absolutely important. So please, masks on all the characters when you can. Make sure you practice quarantining in the show. Like, that did not come from the writers. That wasn't the writers sitting in a room saying, hey, how can we bring COVID in the show and make it really good? No, that came from a network call, and that network imposed this religion on them, even though it completely ruins the show. And I think the writers, if they were allowed to speak freely on this, I think they would tell you exactly how terrible it is, and that they didn't want anything to do with it. It is absolutely terrible. So now that I've showed you this, let's go back. Let's just watch this one more time, because I really want this to sink in. I really want this to sink in for you.
That's our kind of our clarion call to make amazing stuff. Would you agree?
I think that underscores the exact point. Hollywood is a machine. And so the metrics and the money will over trump the message alone. Whereas on the Christian side, many filmmakers think the message is the most important thing. And if I get the message really right, oh, the money will come. Hollywood.
I mean, I can't possibly prove this even anymore. I can't possibly emphasize this anymore. That is absolutely 100% not the money that matters in Hollywood. It's not. It is about appeasing the mob. And when you say that Christians only really care about the message, and that we can give them less quality content as long as the message is there, that's offensive to me. As an artist, as a filmmaker, as a guy who's starting a streaming platform, that's offensive to me. And it couldn't possibly be further from the truth. So we went to a booth. We went to the Founders Conference. We had a booth, and it said, Christian movies shouldn't suck. And I 100% completely stand by that. It's what wakes me out of bed every morning, is how can I make it so Christian movies shouldn't suck? Like, because this mentality of we can give Christians less because they're more forgiving and gracious is outright offensive. It's outright ridiculous and completely insane. And the fact that people think Hollywood only cares about the money is completely insane. It's not true. If cancel culture wouldn't even be a word right now if they only cared about the metrics and the money. Now Greg might come back and he might say, well, the reason that they do this or they cancel people is because they're thinking in terms of not wanting to lose the LGBT audience, or they don't want to lose the social progressive audience, and so they're trying to fit in between. But that is not true in a world where there is no neutrality. Hollywood makes religious movies. Hollywood has religious laws. Hollywood has religious standards, and you cannot go against that. If Hollywood truly, genuinely cared about the world, about pleasing both sides, they would not have tried to blacklist everybody on the Passion of the Christ. They would have looked at Passion of the Christ and said, you know what? We can do Passion of the Christ and make a ton of money, and we'll keep the conservatives happy. But that's not what they did. They didn't continue to make more movies like Passion of the Christ. They shut that down very hard and very fast. And there hasn't been another movie like it. It doesn't matter how much money that Passion of the Christ made. It doesn't matter. It was a signal. When they went after Passion of the Christ, the goal was to say, you are not allowed to do this. And Mel Gibson broke the rules, and we're going to destroy him for it. And that's why lore exists. That's why we're building lore, because I feel like there is a moral obligation that the Christians who are working in Hollywood at very high levels, many of whom we have talked to, and they're considering, I think it's about time that I drive an Uber. I think it's about time I get a job at a fast food restaurant. I know I have these skills, and I know I could do these. I've worked in the Hollywood industry at very high levels, and I'm getting paid really well. But I'm having to choose between being a Christian and making money at my job. I think I'd rather drive an Uber. I have a moral obligation to not let that be. There's a moral obligation here. You talk about the message over the money. The message here is that Christian should not have to decide whether or not he has to drive an Uber or use the skills God has given him to make a living for his family. That should not be an option. And the only reason that cancel culture exists is because everybody is playing by the same religious textbook, and they're following the same religious rules. If there was a company, if there was an organization that said, come here, you can make whatever it is you want, love God, make what you want, and we're not going to cancel you, and in fact, we're going to fight for you, and when the cancel mobs come for you, we're going to stand up and say, who else wants to try? Let's bring them here too. That's how lore is going to win, because we're going to do what no one else is going to do. No one else is going to do it. And so, I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to see what we're working on. It's going to be a shock to the system. Especially this system right here that you just heard. But I'm a firm believer, actually, that even though the message is what drives Hollywood and Christian art together, I believe that if the message is truly good and makes sense with reality, that the money will come. I have no doubts about it. I don't know a really great Christian movie that hasn't done well, or even a really great secular movie that is in line with Christian worldview, or Christian a TV show, a secular movie or TV show that's in line with the Christian worldview, that hasn't done really well. And that is because humans are created in the image of God. And so when we look at presuppositional filmmaking, I guess is the term I could use, right? Like that, is that a thing? Presuppositional filmmaking? It's looking at how are humans created by God to understand and relate to stories. And if we look at that in that sense, in that context, in that sort of view, we can know that even the pagans will relate and love to watch our films. Even the pagans, because they know that this sort of social justice garbage and nonsense that's being pushed on them, the token homosexual characters, the token characters that are minority races, not because the actor is good, but just because they had to put that character in there. And by the way, there are people in Hollywood that they just make sure that the cast is diverse, and they will report back to the networks if your casting process doesn't include very specific minority and diversity requirements. Those people exist. And so they're called directors of diversity, and that is what they do. And actually, if you watch, I think it's Project Greenlight, one of those ladies actually stops a black guy. I guess it was a movie about a fraternity, and there was a black guy who in the movie, I think he was the only black guy that was casted in the movie, and he was casted as a butler in this mansion, right? And she flipped out and said, "You got to hire somebody else, because we can't look racist by having a black butler. That's incredibly racist. And so they went and fired that guy. That guy lost his job because of the color of his skin. And that really happens. And so it's insanity. It's insanity. So it doesn't matter if you're good or you're qualified. What matters is if you meet the diversity quotas. Oh, yeah. And Sai says no Down syndrome people. That's one of the crazy things we've heard, just all the people we've talked about, is did you know that Planned Parenthood lobbies the Hollywood industry to make sure that there's not a significant number of Down syndrome actors. Now, there is the occasional ones. There was a movie just out with one. So there are occasional ones that they throw in. But there's also an initiative from Planned Parenthood to make sure that that doesn't happen, because the last thing Planned Parenthood wants is for Down syndrome actors and actresses to make people want to keep their Down syndrome babies and not get an abortion. So that's an actual thing too. So it's a corrupt industry. It's a religious industry. It's I don't know how I could possibly make this more clear. And like I said, this is very important to understand that I think Greg's a great guy. I think he's very, very smart, very intelligent, and I welcome his counsel at any time. I just completely don't agree. There's not enough evidence at the Creation Museum and Ark Encounter combined to get me to believe that Hollywood doesn't care about the message. There's just not, Greg. I just don't see it. And so, hey, I got a super chat. How did Apple? This is from Kevin Rainwater. Thank you, Kevin, for the $10 super chat. Wow, that's nice. He says, how did Apple's original movie Greyhound with Tom Hanks get produced? Shockingly positive portrayal of an explicitly Christian naval captain in World War II. I have not seen that movie, and I didn't know that about Greyhound. But now I want to watch it. It's on Apple Plus. I'm gonna have to check that out. I believe that Hollywood think of it like we're in like Vietnamese prison camps, and every now and then, or Japanese prison camps, doesn't matter. That is where Christians are. They're in these prison camps. And every now and then, Hollywood comes along and they give us a bowl full of rice and maggots. And we're so thankful for the rice that we don't even care that the maggots are in there. And we're just happy that, well, I mean, at least they tried with Noah. Right? At least they tried with Noah. They added a whole bunch of crazy stuff and they made it about global warming, but at least they tried, or they'll give us Heaven is for Real, which is awful. Just theology wise, it's awful. And then as a movie, it wasn't that good. But they give us these things and I think they give it to us to prevent us from realizing that we're hungry. That's why, right? So they give us a bowl of rice with maggots every now and then we realize that we get fed 3 meals a day. It's rice with maggots, but hey, they're feeding us 3 meals a day. They're doing what they can, and also let me just say this: Christian films are incredibly profitable. Even the films the world hates the most, like Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. I mean, that movie made a ton of money. Compared to how much it cost, and the more people hated it, the more money it made. Right? And so I don't think Hollywood wants Christians to realize the true power that they have and the true strength that they have. And I think once that happens, once we realize that we can make a ton of money and we can do whatever we want and we don't need Hollywood, that creates a problem, because then you have movies like The Passion of the Christ or an actual biblical epic coming on the big screen and competing with the same weekend as a big time Disney release. And then you suck their profits dry. So what they do is they make these terrible Christian films for super low budget because they know that they're going to get 400% return, right? So if I make a film for $5 million and I know I'm going to get 30, 40, 50 million in the box office, not to mention DVD sales and all these other things. But I'm going to give them 5 million, but I'm going to make 50 or 60 million. There's no reason for me to even try hard because I know that money's in the bag, right? Like that's going to happen. But what I don't want them to do is realize that I could put $250 million into a movie or $50 million into a movie, and have them start to expect that sort of quality from Hollywood, because then they're going to be a lot more discerning on the other garbage because they're not going to have to. Let's see. It's like it's sort of like children's church. When they get too old for children's church, then they have to come to the big boy church, and wait a minute. I had an analogy there, and it just completely slipped by, and that analogy now makes no sense. But the point I was trying to make is that they want people to be indoctrinated occasionally to what they want Christians to be indoctrinated all the time. I don't even know where the children's church analogy came from. That just didn't work. But essentially what I was trying to say was that they want people in the big boy church. And they don't want people to realize that children's church is more fun. Which is a terrible analogy because children's church is awful. and you just want people in the big boy. Anyway, enough of that analogy that didn't work in my head. I said it way faster than I thought about it. But thanks Kevin for the $10 super chat. Fantastic. I really appreciate that. Let's see what's happening in Facebook. Benjamin McIntyre, who's in Ireland, he says, I had to turn down a 30,000. I don't know what that symbol is, but it's not dollar symbol. It's not a pound symbol either, is it? I had to turn down 30,000 Irish coins. I'll say that. Opportunity to produce a short film for Virgin Media, as they wanted to adapt the script to be diversity oriented. The lead character was a Nigerian immigrant who overcame poverty, discrimination, and his Down syndrome, but he wasn't female or gay, so it wasn't socially relevant. Hey, Benjamin, why don't you send that script to lore.tv and we'll have a conversation. But yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's how these conversations work. So it's not really about the money. It's not really about whether or not it's a good story. It's not really about that. It's really about the message. Like, what is the message this is going to send? So, Benjamin told me it was 30,000 euros. Sorry, I'm an American man. I don't know what a euro is. Nick Lancaster says, what you're saying is true. I've sampled This Is Us, and it is a huge hit because people are captivated by a simple, relatable story of real people. Sadly, the show is infused with progressive agendas and all sorts of ungodliness unnecessarily, so it ruins what would be an otherwise good story. That's right. Yeah. So again, and they're not putting those ideas in those stories because they think that they're not putting those ideas in the story because they think it'll make it a better story or that they think it will bring in a larger audience. They're putting it in there because it's the religion. It is a complete religion. There is no such thing as neutrality at all, and it just doesn't exist. So let's see. I just want to make sure that I'm getting all the comments that I can where this video is streaming. So I don't want to miss anybody. But yeah. So I think, yeah. Somebody said, yeah, it was a good show before Netflix got it. What show are you talking about? What show are we talking about? Are we talking about This Is Us? I don't think Netflix has This Is Us. That's on NBC. They might air it. I think they air it on the Netflix, but I don't think Netflix has any ownership of it. So, yeah. So I'll now that we're here, I think that's pretty much what I want to talk about. But if you guys have questions, I'm willing to just stay on the live stream and just chat for a bit, have some fun. We can have some discussions. You guys can chat some more. Oh, Designated Survivor. Oh, yes. Designated Survivor was such a good show, and then all the ideologies just went nuts. There's some inside baseball there too. Guaranteed. Yeah, so yeah. I mean even 24 was such a great show that really related well to conservatives, especially after 9/11 is when that show really took off. I think it might have aired before 9/11, and then it really took off after 9/11. But I mean, they just got kind of blessed with the times when that show came on. It was just perfect timing for that. But that was that was a mainly conservative right wing show, in terms of you had a very strong male lead. Who was fighting to protect his family for most of it, and to protect the country, which is all good. Now, my theological positions have changed since I watched that show, and all the elements of torture and the mentality of it's okay to torture somebody if you're going to save lives. That sort of pragmatism, I don't agree with it anymore. But still, I like the moral predicaments that Jack Bauer was placed in, and that indeed was a great show. Do you have a timeline goal for when Lore starts producing content? We're already producing content. Already, I got on a plane a few weeks ago. I went to the bank, and I got a briefcase full of cash, like actual solid cash, and I went to the doorstep of a creator, and I knocked on his door, and I said, here's a briefcase full of cash. It's time for you to start making content for us. And that is happening. So that is in the works. There's also another show that is in casting right now for Lore. And then in addition, we're looking for all sorts of content acquisitions. This is a content that already exists to be put on the platform, and so that is happening. But yeah, will there be a subdivision in Lore that will compete with YouTube or Tumble? Not anytime soon. That is a completely different market. That we're not doing that initially. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? My goal is that Lore becomes big enough that we can do a whole bunch of things. But that might not be a Lore project, for example. But actually, I would just say, you said YouTube or Rumble. I would say go with Gab TV. I think Gab TV is the winner. And if I had to put all my time and energy into one social media platform right now, I would put it in Gab. I know Gab TV doesn't look pretty, but I do know that there are people that are developing Gab TV that know exactly what they're doing, and they're the guys you want developing a streaming platform for video content uploads like that, like YouTube. So but yeah, man, Gab, dude, have you guys checked out the engagement on Gab? The engagement on Gab is insane. Like, the amount of people that like and share on Gab versus Facebook is nuts. Like, I guarantee you I would probably have hundreds of people watching me right now on Gab, if they had a live stream ability. When they do have a live stream ability, I'm all in. I'm all into that. I can't wait. And if anybody from Gab just happens to be watching this, just know that I would love to beta test your live streaming functionality, and I would live stream every single day to test as much as you need. Somebody says, is Lore on Gab? Lore is on Gab at Watch Lore. WATCHLOOR. Watch Lore. Oh, James Baird. As a fellow Presby, I'm curious about your thoughts on Second Commandment violation regarding Jesus being portrayed in film. I am against it, James. I don't know if there's been any solid discussions on that hand with Lore, but that'll I'm sure will come up when it needs to come up. So, yeah. Let's see. Any other questions I'm missing? Any other questions? Well, this has been fun to get back in the live stream. I hope the audio sounded good. I know there was some complaints about the volume being too low, and I wanted to run back and play it and make sure that you guys missed that. Didn't miss what I was saying. And I hope my sound panels are stopping the echo in the mic. I hope the microphone sounds pretty good. I know I'm supposed to speak pretty close to it like this, but I don't have a mic stand at the moment. So great. Awesome. Well, I hope to do this a lot more often, guys. I think now that I'm settled in, everything is good to go. The room sounds... Oh, by the way, the heater is on. I'm wondering if you guys can hear the heater. I tried to put some filters on the microphone to sort of cut that out, but I don't think there's anything I'm going to be able to do about it. We are in northern Idaho, and it is very cold, and it gets very cold very quick if that heater isn't running. So, so Garrett says, "Are you going to be at the Oklahoma rally next week?" I will not be at the rally next week, Garrett. Majority of my time now is not within Abortion Now. It is with Lore, so I'm trying to keep all my focus on that as possible. And that has nothing to do with an Abortion Now or Apologia. It's just that I have a responsibility to the investors now. So that is why I'm not going to be there. Oh, great. The audio is clear. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, I got a microphone arm that's going to come soon, so that way I'll be able to talk into the mic normally without, so it'll probably sound a little bit clearer. Yes, my wife just posted the Gab links. For Lore, it's Watch Lore, WATCHLOOR, and then for and of course I'm King Ginger on Gab as well. Lore has a pro account, and we've already uploaded videos on our Gab TV account, so you can see that stuff there. But thanks, honey, for sharing the links. It's really great. It's always great to have a helpmeet. So somebody says, what are your next topics for live stream? Man, there's a lot I missed out on. Oh man, we could talk about Biden. We could talk about, just everybody was hitting up that election fraud stuff. And when that election fraud stuff happened, I just didn't know. It was so shocking, and the evidence was just so, actually there. And I was just stunned the whole time. I just was kind of waiting for stuff to pan out, even though I knew that it wouldn't. I was kind of hoping that something would happen, and it never did. So I was just silent. I felt it best not to do a live stream during that time. One, because I didn't really have a place to do it, but also because it was just so much information from so many different places that I just felt like the cross-politic guys were really hitting it really hard and really well. and I felt like that was probably it was probably better just to send it into them. I did do a live stream from my phone about Robinhood, which I think is very interesting, about sort of how the mob is going after a hedge fund. And like I said, I don't think the mob will truly be successful or have the wherewithal to outlast a hedge fund banker on his shorts. However, it was interesting to see that the people could get together and move in such a way like that. So I did talk about that a little bit. That was very interesting. Shame on Robinhood, though. They're a tough position for them. If what Robinhood said is true, and that they didn't have the amount of money required to be able to secure the deposits for the sales that were happening, if they didn't have that money available, it was just a PR nightmare. They didn't really have anything they could do. And if it is because they were trying to protect the hedge fund banks, then shame on them. Shame on them. Somebody said, are you accepting content ideas from anyone or just investors? How does that work? Yeah, so if you go to lore.tv and you hit the creator tab, you can submit sort of like a brief portfolio of some of the stuff you've done, and a brief description of your idea or concept that you would want to do. And then if we like it, we are contacting people. So that is, yeah, so no, it's not just ideas from the investors. So no, not just ideas from investors. However, if you do want to be an investor, we'll be sure to listen to your idea. By the way, guys, a lot of you guys have been asking sort of what's going on with lore, and obviously have to keep a lot of it under wraps, and that's not because we don't want to tell you what's going on, as much as we're trying to protect some of the high-level talent from being, how shall we say, exposed too early. I think that's probably the best reason why we have to keep things on the down low in terms of like the content that we're working on, because we want to be a safe space for cancel culture, obviously, but we don't want to make it harder on our artists because they're announced too early, and that sort of cancel culture mob just, I mean, so it's really just to protect our artists that are working on us, because some of them are very high level, and you're going to be shocked. Shocked. It's going to be great. So that's why everything sounds a little bit iffy. But if you really want to know all the sweet details, you can invest. but no, so the ways I know, ways you can be praying for us is one of the most difficult things is, and we've had tremendous blessing with the investors that have invested in lore, just being really good, solid people that really back what we're doing. But pray that we can get some very high level investors. We can find them that have a backbone and want to fight, because that's the hardest thing. Like cancel culture, the religion of this world, has such a grip on people that even though some investors really love what we're doing, a lot of them are nervous and afraid, and because what we're doing is very dangerous. So imagine your money relied on keeping the taxi cab industry happy, and you were asked to invest in Uber. Like, that's the easiest way to explain the conversations that we're having. So I mean, that's really it. The main objections we're having is not into whether the model works, not whether it's profitable, not whether we have a team that can accomplish it and make it happen. We have all that proof. The issue is whether or not you can get investors that are willing to fight with you and not want to pull out when things get tough and dicey. And so that's the tough thing. But I know they're out there and they exist, and we've been speaking to them. And so just pray for that. That's really helpful. Is there a minimum investment level? Is there a minimum investment level? How do we invest? So right now, currently, we're doing accredited investors with a minimum of $50,000. So that's sort of how that's working right now. And the reason is just because it's easier to get an investment at that level than it is to do a massive crowdfunding campaign or divide up shares and equity to the millionth percent to get the smaller donor levels. It's just really a lot to do, but there will be a crowdfunding campaign, and a lot of people who don't have a lot of money, I'm just going to tell you, there's going to come a time when we ask you to pull the trigger and actually invest in some of the content that we want to make on Lore. And that's really what's going to help, even if it's just funding the project itself. That's going to be the biggest, most important thing when we talk about sort of like crowdfunding, like in that sort of sense. So that's going to be huge, and that's going to come up really soon. So that's exciting. So this is the best job I've ever had. What we're doing with Lore is the absolute best job I've ever had. Traveling on a plane, filling it up with cash, speaking to Christians at all the highest levels of Hollywood who are really, really desperate need of another option to support their family. All those sort of things. The timing is right. Everything about it is right. It's really great. Super stoked. So Ben said, can we just send money to support rather than invest for a return? You'll be able to do that with the content that's coming up to fund the content. That's going to be what we're really going to want. So if you don't meet the minimum requirements of an accredited investor according to the government's laws, the best way to invest is just really, just fund content. And when you see the content we make, trust us and don't be afraid. Because it's gonna be a shock to the system. It's gonna be great. Somebody said it would be awesome if Lore puts out content for Latinos. Well, yes, it would, and that's all I'll say about that. Yes, it would. So. Oh, I miss doing these live streams, guys. These are fun. I love taking y'all's questions. How will you protect Lore from the type of stuff that happened to Parler? That's a good question. First off, Parler, I would not say that Parler was ever an incredibly serious technology platform. Gab was. So we can look at these two examples. These two examples of Gab and Parler, and I'm sure people could write different theses on these two companies. Parler was founded by Robert Mercer's daughter, who's Robert Mercer's daughter. So Robert Mercer is essentially, I guess according to the Wikipedia article I read, he's Donald Trump's money man. He's the guy that manages all of Donald Trump's money. And so Parler's main goal was really a data grab, in the sense of, we just want to get all the information we can from conservatives and then be able to use that information and data to be able to move them towards political action. So Parler, I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, so don't hold me to it, but I heard that Parler was essentially just a WordPress backend of a website. but I don't know how much of that is true. Maybe initially it was, and then they switched off of it once it grew. I'm not exactly sure, but essentially it was what happens when you have tons of money, but you don't have a real firm understanding of technology. And the thing was, Parler lasted a much longer time than Gab did. And I always found it interesting that they kicked Gab off so quick, but for some reason, Parler was allowed to stay on as long as they did. And they canceled Parler around the same time they got rid of Trump. So they waited to make sure that Trump was no longer had any power or authority before they got rid of Parler. And that was because they knew, big tech knew, that Parler was really just a political action committee that made a technology website. Whereas Gab, when Gab got canceled, they shut everything down for 2 years and they just disappeared. Although the website was still up, they sort of disappeared into the background for a while, and they built out an infrastructure that, with the foresight and knowledge to know if we want to get to where we want to be, we have to do certain things, and so that is what they did. But yeah, so that is that's the difference. And so, and also too, Gab is run by great people who have a really solid Christian worldview, and they know what they're doing from a Reconstructionist standpoint. So that's really great. Okay, somebody said, at what point do you expect content to pop up on Lore? Content will pop up on Lore when we post it on Facebook. that's all I'll say on that. How's Moscow treating you? Moscow is treating me very well. It is a really great place. There are a lot of angry people that live in Moscow that don't like Christianity at all. But it's really fun to live in a place where there's a fight against the people in the church. And so it's really cool to be in a church that gets that fight and can fight, laugh, and feast all at the same time. It is much colder, yes. So let's see. It's 3:30 in the morning in Ireland, Benjamin. Well, get to bed, man. That's crazy. I remember when we went to Ireland, we actually woke up at 3:30 because of jet lag. And so everybody was awake at 3:30, and then we went and I was just like trying to fly drone downtown in the bar district, and this gust of wind came right down the alley and like flew my drone into a rooftop, not a rooftop, but it was an outdoor deck. It was an outdoor deck, and so it was maybe 2 stories up. Because I wasn't really high, and the wind just blew it there. And Jeff, like a ninja, just like ninja'd up the wall of this patio and grabbed the drone and like ninja'd down, exactly like you would expect a ninja to climb a wall. That's exactly what it looked like, something out of a comic book. It was great times. I have a lot of great memories of Ireland at 3:30 in the morning, Benjamin. All right. Well, this has been fun, guys. I really thank you guys for joining in and tuning into the chat. It's been great. Thanks for everybody that's watching on YouTube and Facebook. Really appreciate it. Really great stuff. We'll try to do this more often, especially as I find stuff that's interesting to me. I have to say, I haven't been too much in the political realm as I've been in the Christian film and television realm lately. So I haven't been caught up to date on everything as I used to be. But Sai, I love you too, man. I can't wait for you to get out here. I can't wait for you to get out here and come back. So oh, thanks for praying for Lord. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot. I mean, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, if you go to lore.tv, you can sign up for the newsletter there, and that'll keep you up to date on sort of some of the stuff we're seeing, some of the news and information, you know, all this sort of stuff. So, but yeah, I think I'll end it there. I have more I could talk about, but I better save it for a different show. But anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you guys so much for everything, and I hope you guys have a great night.